Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving deep to uncover the hidden mechanics, really the invisible design of Japanese megacities. We're going to break down exactly how these massive, sprawling urban spaces manage to function so incredibly smoothly. How they create an environment that feels fundamentally different from almost anywhere else on the globe. So let's jump right in and see how a city's layout, combined with its culture, can literally shape human behavior. Okay, I want you to imagine something for a second. You step off a plane and walk right into the heart of a city with over 37 million people. When you hear a number that huge, what instantly pops into your head? Probably absolute chaos, right? You're bracing for total sensory overload. But instead, you're met with this crazy paradox. You step into literally one of the most densely populated places on Earth, and instead of chaos, you find tranquility. You find an environment that somehow, against all odds, feels peaceful. How is that even possible? Right, we totally expect chaos. Honking cars, people shouting, bumper-to-bumper traffic, the whole shebang. But the reality? It's entirely different. We're talking quiet lines, spotless streets, and trains that arrive exactly on the minute. So why the huge disconnect? Well, the secret isn't just about throwing up fancier buildings or relying purely on architecture. Actually, as we're about to see, it's this brilliant synergy of psychology, deep-rooted culture, and incredibly intentional design, all just working quietly in the background. Section 1. Built for walking. So, to really understand how this works, we gotta peel back the very first layer of the city, which is its physical environment. And that begins with a massive shift in urban planning, basically prioritizing people over cars through what we can call walkable abundance. Instead of needing a car for absolutely everything, your daily necessities, the grocery store, the train station, a cozy cafe, the pharmacy, a local park, they're often just minutes from your front door. And this isn't just about saving gas or cutting down on traffic, it fundamentally rewrites how you experience your neighborhood. Because when you're out walking, you actually notice those small shops, you say hi to your neighbors, you spend real time outdoors. The city feels incredibly alive because people are actually part of it, not just zipping through it in a metal box. Section 2. A culture of ownership. And that physical engagement leads right into a really vital mindset. If you've ever visited or even just seen videos of these cities, you've probably noticed that the streets are absolutely pristine, which is wild considering there's an almost total lack of public trash bins. No way, right? So how on earth do the streets stay so clean without them? Well, it starts with culture. In Japan, from a really young age, students actively participate in cleaning their own classrooms and school spaces. It's just a normal, ingrained part of their day. And this simple practice instills a really powerful message early on. Cleaning isn't just someone else's problem. It's a shared responsibility. You carry your trash home with you because taking care of the shared space is just part of being in the community. As they grow up, this childhood practice naturally evolves into this unspoken adult civic duty. Ultimately, when people feel a true sense of ownership, they naturally take better care of their environment. That collective ownership leads to a profound, everyday respect for shared urban spaces. And the best part? It's not enforced by some heavy-handed authority. It's just organically upheld by a shared mindset. Section 3. The quiet crowd. Okay, let's pivot and explore the psychological layer of the city, because honestly, it is just as fascinating as the physical one. Remember those 37 million people we talked about earlier? Picture a packed train during rush hour. We're talking thousands of people, literally shoulder to shoulder. Now, in a lot of places, that would be an incredibly loud, intensely stressful environment. But here, it remains shockingly quiet. Barely any shouting, almost zero loud phone conversations. So how does a crowd of thousands stay so quiet? It all comes down to social harmony. Public spaces here operate on this beautiful, unspoken social agreement. The goal isn't to be the loudest or to boldly stand out. The goal is actively avoiding disturbing others. Individual actions are just naturally filtered through this lens of considering the people around you. It's this cultural phenomenon that acts as an anchor, creating calm right in the absolute center of extreme density. Section 4. The power of invisible design. Now, it's one thing to have a polite culture, sure, but it is a whole other ballgame to have spatial and systemic design that actually supports and even subtly dictates this harmonious human behavior. Take land, for instance. Land in many Japanese cities is incredibly limited, but instead of fighting that limitation, designers completely embraced it. We're talking small spaces, but big ideas. Homes are often compact, storage is radically efficient. Furniture almost always serves multiple purposes. Every single square meter is carefully thought out. So rather than feeling boxed in or restricted, these spaces feel deeply intentional. It just proves that good, thoughtful design is vastly more impactful than simply having a massive footprint.
So, how does this scale up to the broader city infrastructure? Well, let's look at what we can call the chain reaction of transit. It's fascinating to see how this step-by-step logic shapes the environment. Step 1, you build a remarkably efficient, hyper-reliable rail network. And because it's so reliable, people actually want to use it, which leads us to Step 2, way fewer cars on the road. Now, fewer cars naturally triggers Step 3, less congestion. And finally, less congestion leaves us with Step 4, much quieter streets. It's a literal domino effect. This just brilliantly illustrates how a transportation network isn't just about moving people from point A to point B. It directly shapes the entire feel, the whole vibe, and the noise level of the city itself.
And honestly, the absolute best part of all this urban design is that it goes completely unnoticed. That is the true essence of invisible design. Clear signs, logical layouts, perfectly safe pedestrian crossings, effortless navigation. You rarely stop to think about these things because they just work. When a space is this intuitive, it saves the residents a massive amount of mental energy. You don't have to fight the city just to figure it out. You simply get to enjoy being in it. Section 5. Modernity meets tradition. As you navigate through this highly efficient, totally well-designed space, especially in a place like Tokyo, you hit this really unique aesthetic balance. On one hand, you've got these towering skyscrapers, blinding neon lights, and crazy fast-paced tech. But literally just a few streets over, you'll stumble upon centuries-old temples, tranquil, peaceful gardens, and traditions that have survived for generations. And this contrast really matters, because slapping a massive modern skyscraper right next to a historic temple keeps the city from feeling sterile, or like it's just trapped in a museum. The city is continuously adapting and growing, yet it stubbornly and wonderfully holds on to its deep cultural identity. Which really brings us to the core thesis of this entire explainer. We might look at Japanese cities and think, oh, they feel different just because they're cleaner or quieter, or maybe just better organized. But guys, those are just the visible results. The deeper truth is that great cities are created by ordinary people making thoughtful choices every single day. The walkability, the quiet trains, the pristine streets, they're all the product of shared responsibility, people-first planning, and literally millions of small individual actions coming together like a giant puzzle. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to chew on. The best cities aren't just built, they're carefully experienced. The next time you're walking through your own city, I challenge you to look beyond the skyline. Actually notice how spaces are designed, notice how people move around, and really think about the everyday human choices that are actively shaping your environment. Because at the end of the day, every city ultimately reflects the values of the people who build and live in it. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really hope this changes the way you look at the streets right outside your own front door.